Ayo, back at it again with another video. Thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate it. So, Big Ten and SEC at 24 teams. Currently, the Big Ten is at 18 and the SEC is at 16. So, for the Big Ten, you would have to add 6, and for the SEC, you would have to add 8. This is all hinging on a potential ACC collapse. We all know the Pac-12 collapsed within the past couple of years. The Big 12 looked like it was going to collapse after Texas and Oklahoma jumped ship to the SEC. It didn't. I think the ACC is the next conference to kind of collapse because if you look at, there's Clemson and Florida State wanting to jump ship. So, who do I think the Big Ten adds? I think Cal and Stanford for that Northern California media market. This is a fantasy that the Big Ten has, that they want Notre Dame. Notre Dame, I don't know if they'll ever join a conference. I really don't. Maybe the only way that they would is they were forced to or the money's right. I'm not sure. But basically you add Stanford and Cal, you add Notre Dame, you add Virginia, North Carolina, and Florida State. So you basically take a couple from the ACC on the East Coast and you take Stanford and Cal from the ACC on the West Coast. Again, Stanford and Cal in the ACC doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but I digress. So that would be a theoretical Big Ten at 24. You add teams in the Northern California market, you add Notre Dame, you add Virginia, you add North Carolina, you expand into SEC territory, and you take Florida State. So that would be a theoretical Big Ten at 24. For the SEC, they're at 16 currently, and you have to add 8 to get to 24. So Texas A&M and Texas are already there. You maybe add another Texas school. Tech would be a good one. Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. You add in Georgia Tech. You have 2 teams in Georgia. You add a second team in Florida. You already have Florida. You bring in Miami. You bring in Clemson. You have a Clemson-South Carolina rivalry in the state of South Carolina. You bring in Duke and NC State. You bring in Virginia Tech. It's possible. Also, I think another SEC school might be Louisville. I mean, it's not a traditional, in the sense, SEC school, but it could fit. I think Virginia Tech in the SEC would be kind of interesting, especially that Enter Sandman intro that they got at Lane Stadium. This is just a theoretical 24 team for the SEC. You have 3 in Texas, you have 2 in Oklahoma, a Missouri, an Arkansas, a Louisiana, 2 Mississippis, 2 Alabamas, 2 Georgias, 2 Floridas, 2 South Carolinas, 2 North Carolinas, 2 Tennessees, a Kentucky, and a Virginia. You maintain that geographic stability that the Big Ten doesn't really want that. They're more worried about AAU accreditation. The SEC is more worried about regional whatnot. So you add more teams in Texas and Oklahoma, maybe even move into Kansas. You maybe take Kansas or Kansas State. Possible. Maybe take a Louisville. You have 2 in Kentucky. You add a couple more here in South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. You bump into some states in North Carolina and Virginia. So yeah, I think that is a very interesting possibility. Southeast expands a little bit into Texas and Oklahoma more and expands up into the Mid-Atlantic. So, SEC at 24. You take the Big Ten, you add in Virginia, North Carolina, you add in a Georgia Tech, you add in a Miami or a Florida State. In this scenario, I have them taking Florida State. Maybe you move in out west as well. all kind of depends on how the dominoes fall. So this is just a possible 2 conferences, 24 team scenario. So who knows? I think we're kind of moving towards 24. I think that's kind of what we're getting towards. It's just a matter of time. I think the Big Ten's going to get there first. I think the SEC is going to catch up at some point. But I do think the next target that we all have in mind is 20 and then 24. If it gets completely out of hand or it goes further, then we can get up to 30 and 32, which would be kind of interesting. But I think the next step we get to is 24 teams in both conferences. So this is just a scenario. Interesting to think about, and I will sign off, and I will see you all in the next video. Deuces.